What ancient secret hides within the Tower of the Elephant? And who, or what, really rules its dark, forbidden halls? Welcome to Classic Storytime Hub. Tonight's story is The Tower of the Elephant by Robert E. Howard, a classic story reimagined and retold for the modern age. Flames from torches flickered across the twisting alleys of the mall, casting shadows that danced like predators on the walls. Tonight, the thieves of the East celebrated, a wild carnival where no honest soul dared tread. The streets, slick with rain and filth, reeked of stale wine and sweat, and the air vibrated with the roar of drunken laughter, the clash of fists, and the metallic glint of hidden blades. Somewhere in the darkness, a wolf hunted a wolf, and a shrill cry, part mirth, part menace, rose above the chaos. Inside one of the smoke-choked dens, the riot of revelry surged to the low, sooty ceiling. Men and women alike, each a shadow of cunning or desperation, pressed shoulder to shoulder. Cut-purses with twitching fingers, leering kidnappers, thieves with a swagger that dared any challenge, each played their part. Women in gaudy finery laughed like sirens, voices slicing through the smoke. Zamorians dominated the room, their daggers glinting, eyes sharp with guile, but they were joined by rogues from distant lands. A silent Hyborian giant with a broadsword strapped to his massive frame, a Shemitish counterfeiter with a hooked nose and curling beard, a bold-eyed Brythonine courtesan perched on the knee of a tawny-haired Dunderman mercenary, and a fat, jolly rogue from Koth, teaching the art of kidnapping with prideful flair. The Koffian paused mid-story, his words about a chosen prey suspended as he dunked his face into a frothing tankard of ale. Blowing foam from his lips, he grinned. "By Bel, god of thieves, I'll show them how it's done. She'll cross the Zamorian border before dawn, and a caravan waits to claim her. 300 silver pieces the Count of Ophir promised me for a fine Brythonine girl. I've hunted for weeks, wandering border towns in rags, until I found one just right, and what a treasure she is." He sent a sloppy kiss into the air, chuckling to himself. "I know lords in Shem who would trade the secrets of the Elephant Tower for her," he added, taking another greedy gulp of ale. A tug at his sleeve made him scowl. Rising from the shadows, a tall, solidly built youth stood beside him, an intruder as out of place as a wolf among gutter rats. The room seemed to shudder for a moment, the laughter and clamor pausing as eyes turned to the newcomer, unaware that this chance meeting would ignite a chain of events no thief or lord could foresee. His ragged tunic did little to hide the hard, lean power coiled in his frame. Broad shoulders, a chest like iron, a waist narrow but solid, and arms that promised sudden lethal strength. Sun-brown skin stretched over muscle, and piercing blue eyes smoldered beneath a mop of dark, tangled hair. At his hip hung a well-worn sword, its scabbard scarred from countless battles. The Koffian thief recoiled instinctively. This man was no ordinary stranger. He belonged to no civilized land the rogue had ever known. "You spoke of the Elephant Tower," the stranger said, his voice smooth but foreign, each word of Zamorian tinged with an unfamiliar accent. "I have heard much of this place. What secret does it hold?" The Koffian's chest swelled with pride, emboldened by the ale and the eager attention of the audience. "The secret?" he sneered, smirking. "Why, it is plain. Yara, the priest, dwells there, guarding the jewel they call the elephant's heart. That, my friend, is the source of his power." The barbarian's gaze lingered on him, unflinching. "I have seen this tower," he said slowly. "It rises in a great garden above the city, ringed with high walls. I have seen no guards. The walls could be scaled. Why has no one claimed the jewel?" For a heartbeat, the Koffian stared in stunned disbelief, then erupted into a loud, scornful laugh. The den joined him, the sound rolling through the smoke-filled hall like thunder. "Hearken to this heathen," he bellowed, pointing a tankard at the stranger. "You, northern barbarian, what land sends men of such recklessness?" "I am Cimmerian," the man replied, voice low, uninviting. No fear, no deference. His tone demanded acknowledgement. The Kothian shrugged. He knew little of northern realms beyond vague tales of cold, wild lands. "Then listen and learn wisdom," the thief said, jabbing a finger toward the newcomer. "In Zamora, and especially this city, bold thieves are everywhere, more than anywhere else on earth, even in Koth. If any mortal could have taken the jewel, it would have vanished long ago. You speak of scaling walls, but climb them, and you will soon wish yourself back on the street. There are no guards in the gardens at night, not of flesh and blood, but beneath, in the lower tower, armed men patrol. Even if you passed them, the jewel lies higher still, in the upper tower, far from reach." The Cimmerian's eyes narrowed. But if a man could reach the upper levels, why not take the jewel without confronting the guards? The Kothian gaped, disbelief turning to mockery. "Listen to him," he shouted. "This barbarian would soar like an eagle to the tower's rim. Know that it is over 150 feet tall, its sides slick as polished glass. One misstep, and even the eagle falls." The Cimmerian's blue eyes swept the room, unflinching, as mocking laughter rolled over him like thunder. He felt no amusement. Civilized men, he noted with a twinge of irony, were often ruder than savages. They knew impoliteness carried no immediate risk to the skull. Bewildered and slightly chagrined, he might have slipped away quietly had the Kothian not decided to provoke him further. "Come now," the thief bellowed, pointing and jeering. "Tell these poor fools who've been thieves since before you were born, tell them how you'd steal the jewel." "There is always a way," the barbarian replied, voice low and steady, "if desire is matched with courage." The Kothian's face flushed crimson. He rose to his full drunken height, fury spilling from every vein. "What?" he roared. "You dare lecture us and imply we are cowards? Out of my sight!" He shoved the Cimmerian violently. The barbarian's anger snapped like a drawn bow. In one swift motion, he returned the push with a flat-handed strike that sent the thief crashing against the rough-hewn table. Ale spilled over the edge, splashing onto the floor. The Kothian lunged for his sword, shouting, "Heathen dog, I'll have your heart for that." Steel flashed, chaos erupted, and the hall dissolved into pandemonium. Guests scattered, benches tumbled, candles fell, plunging the den into darkness. The crash of overturned furniture, the thunder of fleeing feet, shouts and oaths mixed into a cacophony, broken only by a sharp scream of agony that cut through the din. When light returned, the revelers were gone, hiding behind barrels or slinking out broken windows. At the center of the room lay the Kothian, gashed and lifeless. The Cimmerian had struck true in the confusion, his instincts precise, unerring. Beyond the chaos, the city stretched before him, quiet now under the night sky. He had discarded the torn tunic, leaving only a simple loincloth and high-strapped sandals. Muscles rippled beneath bronze skin as he moved with the silent, lethal grace of a great tiger. He entered the section of the city devoted to temples. White marble pillars glimmered in starlight. Golden domes and silver arches reflected a cold, ethereal glow. Shrines dedicated to Zamora's myriad gods. He paid them no heed. Religion, like much of civilized life, he knew, had become a tangle of rituals and formulas, stripping away the essence of its original power. His focus lay elsewhere, on the tower, on the jewel, and on the path he must carve through shadows and stone. For hours he had crouched in the courtyard of the philosophers, listening to endless debates of theologians and teachers, only to leave more bewildered than when he had arrived. One truth remained clear. All of them were touched in the head. His gods were simple, powerful, and terrifying. Crom ruled from a distant mountain, sending down dooms and death at his will. No prayers, no petitions. Crom despised weakness. But he gave a man courage at birth, the strength to crush his enemies, and that, to the Cimmerian, is all any god need provide. His sandaled feet made no sound on the gleaming temple stones. No watchman patrolled, even the thieves of the mall dared not tread here. Stories told of sudden, mysterious dooms befalling those who violated the sacred precincts. Ahead, the Tower of the Elephant rose against the starlit sky. Its name intrigued him. None seemed to know its origin. He had never seen an elephant, though a wandering Shemite had claimed to have seen them in vast herds in the distant lands of the Hyrcanians, men whose tales were known to be mostly lies. Certainly there were no elephants in Zamora. The tower shimmered coldly in the starlight, a slim, flawless cylinder 150 feet tall, its rim encrusted with immense glittering jewels. By day it dazzled, so bright that few could bear its brilliance. Surrounded by exotic trees in a raised garden, the tower was enclosed by a high wall, and beyond it another lower wall further guarded the precinct. No light shone from its upper windows, if any existed, but the jewels above sparkled with a frozen, unearthly gleam. Shrubs grew thickly outside the outer wall, and the Cimmerian crept close, eyes scanning every contour. The wall was high, but his fingers could catch its coping. With a swing he could vault over, and the inner wall would be no obstacle either. Yet he paused, recalling the dangers that supposedly lurked within. These people were alien to him, not of his kind, not even like the Brythians, Nemedians, Kothians, or Aquilonians, whose strange civilizations he had seen before. Zamorans were ancient and wicked beyond measure. He thought of Yara, the high priest, wielder of strange and terrible powers. A story came to mind, told by a drunken court page, how Yara had mocked a hostile prince, holding a glowing, evil gem aloft. Rays shot from it, searing the prince into a shriveled, blackened form, which then twisted into a spider, crawling frantically until Yara's heel crushed it beneath him. The memory made the Cimmerian's hair rise on his neck. The tower awaited. Its secrets, its perils, and its unholy treasures all lay ahead, gleaming like a challenge against the night sky. Yara rarely left his tower of magic, and when he did, it was always to unleash some new evil upon a man, a city, or a nation. The king of Zamora feared him more than death itself, drowning in wine to numb a terror no sober mind could endure. Yara was said to be centuries old, and men whispered that the heart of the elephant, the jewel at the tower's core, kept him alive beyond natural measure. They called it that simply because it lay in the Elephant Tower, though none truly knew why. Lost in these thoughts, the Cimmerian pressed against the shadowed wall of the garden. A measured footfall reached his ears, steel clinking softly. So there were indeed guards patrolling these gardens. He waited, eyes straining, expecting the sound to pass again, but silence returned, thick and strange. Curiosity overcame caution. With a single fluid motion, he seized the wall and vaulted to the top. Lying flat on the broad coping, he peered down into the wide garden below. No shrubs grew close to him, only carefully tended bushes near the inner wall. The starlight shimmered across the even sward, and the faint tinkle of a distant fountain whispered in the quiet. Cautiously, he lowered himself to the inside, sword drawn, muscles coiled for instant action. The open night made him uneasy, alone, exposed, but he moved silently along the curve of the wall, hugging shadows. He approached the shrubbery near the inner wall and, crouching low, surged forward and nearly stumbled over a form sprawled at its edge. Quick glances right and left revealed no immediate threat. He bent closer. Even in the dim starlight, his sharp eyes discerned a heavily built man in silvered armor and a crested helmet, the Royal Zamorian Guard. A spear and shield lay nearby, but the man's throat had been mercilessly strangled. The barbarian's gaze swept the garden uneasily. This had to be the guard he had heard moments ago, yet in the brief interval, unseen hands had snuffed out his life. A flicker of motion caught his eye among the shrubs. He glided forward, sword in hand, silent as a stalking panther. The massive form ahead twitched, a human figure, thankfully, but tense, aware. The creature, or man, spun suddenly, gasp ripping through the quiet like panic incarnate. Hands shot forward, claws or fingers ready to strike, but the Cimmerian's blade caught the starlight in a silver flash. For a heartbeat, neither moved, the knight holding its breath. Two figures frozen in anticipation, each waiting for the other's first move, in the shadowed heart of the Elephant Tower's forbidden garden. "You're no soldier," the stranger hissed, voice low and sharp. "You're a thief, like me." "And who are you?" Conan asked, eyes narrowing, sword still ready. "Taurus of Nemedia," came the whispered reply. Conan's grip on his blade eased slightly. "I've heard of you. They call you a prince among thieves." A low laugh rippled from Taurus. He was as tall as Conan, broader, his belly round and heavy, yet every movement carried an understated energy, a magnetism mirrored in the sharp gleam of his eyes, even in the faint starlight. Barefoot, he carried a coiled rope, knotted at intervals like a tool of deadly craft. "And who are you?" Taurus whispered back. "Conan, a Cimmerian," came the curt reply. "I've come seeking the jewel of Yara, the elephant's heart." Taurus's belly shook with laughter, but it was not cruel, it was admiration. "By Bel, god of thieves, I thought I alone had the courage for such a heist. These Zamorians call themselves thieves? Bah! Conan, I like your grit. I've never shared an adventure, but by Bel we'll attempt this together, if you're willing." "You're after the gem too?" "Of course. My plans have been laid for months, but you, my friend, seem to act on sudden impulse." "You killed the guard?" Conan asked, eyes keen. "Of course," Taurus replied with a shrug. "He passed through the garden, I slipped over the wall unseen, hid in the bushes. He heard, or thought he heard something, stumbled towards me, and I ended his foolish life. Most men are half blind in the dark. A true thief must see like a cat." "You made one mistake," Conan said, voice calm but sharp. "I? A mistake? Impossible." "You should have dragged the body into the bushes. They won't change the guard until past midnight. If anyone finds the body now, they'll run straight to Yara, bellowing news, giving us time to vanish. If they don't, they'll beat the bushes, and we'd be trapped like rats." Conan nodded. "You are right." "Good," Taurus said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "Now listen carefully. We waste time with talk. There are no human guards in the inner garden, though deadlier sentinels watch. Their presence baffled me for months until I found a way past them. And the soldiers in the lower tower? Old Yara resides above. We'll go that way, and I hope return the same. Don't ask how, I've arranged it. We'll descend through the top of the tower, and if luck favors us, strangle the old priest before his cursed spells touch us. At worst, a risk of being turned into spiders or toads, but against wealth and power, all risks must be taken." "I'll go as far as any man," Conan said, shedding his sandals, muscles coiled and ready. "Then follow me." Taurus turned, leaped, and with astonishing grace for a man of his bulk, swung himself over the wall, landing silently atop the garden. Conan followed, lying flat on the broad coping, their whisper sharp in the starlit night. "I see no light," Conan muttered. The lower tower gleamed like a silver cylinder, smooth and flawless, with no visible openings. "There are cleverly hidden doors and windows," Taurus whispered, "closed now. The soldiers below breathe air from above. The garden sprawled beneath them, a shifting sea of shadows. Feathery bushes and low spreading trees moved with the faintest breeze, or perhaps with something more sinister. Conan's instincts screamed of danger. He smelled it, subtle yet primal, like a hunting dog catching the scent of an ancient foe. "Follow me," Taurus hissed. "Stay close, behind me if you value your life." With that, he drew a slender copper tube from his girdle and dropped lightly into the garden. Conan followed, sword ready, but Taurus pressed him back against the wall. Every motion of the Nemedian spoke of tense expectancy, eyes fixed on the trembling shrubbery a few yards ahead. Something stirred in the shadows. Then two enormous eyes blazed, golden and terrifying. Sparks of fire glimmered behind them. "Lions," Conan muttered under his breath. "Aye, by day they dwell in subterranean caverns beneath the tower. That is why no guards patrol this garden." Taurus counted rapidly. 5 visible, maybe more hidden in the brush. "They'll charge." "Silence," Taurus hissed. He advanced, cautiously, as if treading on knives, lifting the copper tube to his lips. A low, rumbling growl rose from the darkness. The blazing eyes fixed on them, tails lashing, muscles coiled for the leap. Conan's hand tightened on his sword, ready for the impact of massive bodies, death hurtling towards him. Then Taurus blew sharply into the tube. A jet of yellowish powder erupted, forming a thick greenish-yellow cloud that rolled over the shrubbery. The glaring eyes vanished into the choking mist, and silence fell. Taurus dashed back to the wall, motioning Conan to wait. "What is that mist?" Conan asked, unease tightening his chest. "Death," hissed Taurus. "Breathe it, and you die. If the wind shifts and blows it back, we run straight over the wall. But the air is still. Now it will dissipate. Wait until every trace vanishes." Conan crouched, every sense alert. The garden was no longer just a patch of shadows. It was a hunting ground, and unseen killers lurked within the night, patient and deadly. Soon, only faint yellow wisps floated ghost-like in the air, and then they vanished entirely. Taurus motioned Conan forward. They crept towards the shrubs, and the Cimmerian's breath caught in his throat. 5 massive, tawny shapes lay sprawled in the shadows, their fiery eyes dim forever. A cloying, sweetish scent lingered faintly in the air. "They died without a sound," Conan muttered, awe and unease in his voice. "Taurus, what was that powder?" "Black lotus," whispered Taurus. "Its blossoms bloom in the lost jungles of Kitai, where only the yellow-skulled priests of Yun dare tread. The scent strikes down anyone who inhales it, instantly, silently." Conan knelt beside the fallen lions, eyes scanning each massive form to be certain. Even a barbarian of the north could see the deadly exotic magic at work, and he shook his head, shaken by the mysterious, terrible power of distant lands. "Why not use the same powder on the soldiers in the tower?" he asked cautiously. "This is all I have," Taurus said, a flicker of pride in his eyes. "Obtaining it alone made me famed among thieves. I stole it from a caravan bound for Stygia, lifted from the coils of the great serpent that guarded it, without waking the beast. But come, by Bel, will we waste the night in talk?" They slithered through the garden shadows to the base of the tower. Taurus uncoiled a thick rope, knotted at intervals, with a strong steel hook at one end. Conan understood immediately, saying nothing as the Nemedian gripped the line below the hook, swinging it deftly over his head. Conan pressed his ear to the smooth tower wall. Silence. The soldiers within suspected nothing. Intruders had moved as quietly as the night wind threading through the trees. Yet Conan's muscles tensed, nerves alert. Perhaps it was the lingering scent of lion that made his instinct scream. With a practiced motion, Taurus threw the hook. It curved upward, then inward, vanishing over the jeweled rim of the tower. He tugged cautiously. The rope held firm.
Luck with the first cast. But Conan's savage instinct shattered the calm. A shadow reared upright, massive, tawny, towering over him under the starlit sky. Death was silent, imminent, unstoppable for any ordinary man. Conan moved like lightning, his sword flashed in the starlight, every sinew straining with desperate power. Steel met fur and bone in a single brutal strike. The beast crashed to the ground. Taurus swore beneath his breath, bending to help Conan as the barbarian struggled free from the lion's weight. The great creature lay dead, its skull split by Conan's precise blow. With Taurus's aid, Conan pushed the carcass aside, still gripping his dripping sword, eyes blazing with readiness for whatever nightmare awaited next in the tower.
"Are you hurt?" gasped Taurus, still reeling from the lightning encounter with the lion. "No, by Crom," Conan snapped, chest heaving. "But that was as close as life has ever dared come to claiming me. Why did the cursed beast charge in silence?" "All things are strange in this garden," Taurus whispered. "Lions strike silently, and so do other deaths. We made little sound in the kill, but the soldiers may have heard, if they are not asleep or drunk. That one was elsewhere, missed by the death of the lotus powder, but surely there are no more. Now, we climb. No need to ask a Cimmerian if he can." "If it bears my weight," Conan grunted, wiping his sword clean on the grass. "It will bear thrice mine," Taurus said, woven from the tresses of dead women, steeped in the deadly wine of the upas tree for strength. "I go first, follow closely." The Nemedian hooked a knee around the rope and began the ascent, moving with the grace of a cat, belying his bulk. Conan followed, muscles coiled, climbing with his familiar lethal ease. The rope twisted and swayed, but both had scaled far deadlier heights. Above them, the jeweled rim jutted outward, a glittering perch that made their ascent easier, if no less dangerous. Up and up they rose, the lights of Zamora sprawling below them, stars dimming beneath the shimmer of countless gemstones embedded along the rim. Taurus reached the top first, seizing the rim and hauling himself over. Conan paused, mesmerized by the spectacle. The jewels were hypnotic. Diamonds, rubies, emeralds, sapphires, turquoises, moonstones, set thick as stars against the silver tower. From a distance, they had merged into a blinding white glare, but up close, they shimmered with a million prismatic lights, flickering and pulsing like a living rainbow. "A fabulous fortune lies here, Taurus," Conan whispered. "Fortune, yes, but the heart is our prize. Come, secure it, and these and all things will be ours." Conan swung himself over the rim. The tower's flat top lay beneath him, composed of a dark, almost sapphire-blue stone, flecked with gold that glittered in the starlight. Across from their entry point rose a small chamber, built from the same silvered material as the walls, its surface set with intricate patterns of smaller jewels. Its single door gleamed with gold, scales carved in its face encrusted with icy, glimmering gemstones that promised both wonder and peril. Conan cast a glance over the glittering ocean of lights sprawling below them. Taurus was drawing in his rope, coiling it with deliberate care. He pointed to the hook. It had caught only a fraction of an inch under a blazing jewel on the inner rim. "Luck favors us again," Taurus muttered. "One would think our combined weight would have torn that stone from its setting. Follow me. The real dangers begin now. We are in the serpent's lair, and we know not where he lies hidden." Like stalking predators, they crept across the darkly gleaming floor of the tower's top. They halted before the sparkling door. Taurus tested it with a deft, cautious hand. It swung open effortlessly. Conan glimpsed the chamber beyond, a glittering interior, walls, floor, and ceiling encrusted with massive white jewels that illuminated the space with a pale, eerie light. It appeared empty, yet the air itself seemed heavy with menace. "Before we cut off our last retreat," hissed Taurus, "go to the rim, scan all sides.
If soldiers stir in the gardens, or if anything seems amiss, return and warn me. I will wait within." Conan's instincts bristled at the strange caution, a fleeting suspicion flickering across his mind. Still, he obeyed. As he moved to the edge, Taurus slipped inside, closing the door silently behind him. Cautiously, Conan crept along the rim, scanning the shadows below. The garden was calm, the leaves faintly swaying. Nothing moved. He turned back toward the door, then froze. From within came a strangled, choking cry. Conan sprang forward, muscles coiled like a panther. The floor seemed to swing beneath him as Taurus appeared, framed against the glittering brilliance of the room. The Nemedian swayed, lips parting, but only a dry, gurgling rattle issued. He grasped at the golden door, stumbled onto the roof, and fell headlong, clutching at his throat. The door swung shut behind him. Conan crouched, eyes narrowing, heart pounding. In the brief instant the door stood ajar, he saw nothing in the room, except perhaps a shadow darting across the jeweled surfaces, or maybe it was a trick of the light. Taurus lay sprawled, hands clawing at his throat, eyes wide and glazing with a bewildered terror. Then, stiffening suddenly, he lay still. Conan realized with grim certainty the Prince of Thieves had died, and without knowing what invisible hand or hidden death had claimed him. The golden door gleamed coldly in the starlight, as silent and cryptic as death itself. In that glittering chamber, where jewels sparkled like frozen stars, doom had struck swiftly, silently, and mysteriously, just as Taurus had unleashed it on the lions below.
Conan ran his hands gingerly over Taurus's half-naked body, seeking any wound. Only 3 small punctures marred the flesh between his shoulders, near the base of his bull neck, like 3 nails driven deep and withdrawn. The edges were blackened, a faint stench of decay lingering in the air. Poisoned darts, Conan thought. But if that were so, the missiles would still be lodged in the flesh. Cautiously, he approached the golden door, pushing it open. The chamber lay empty, bathed in the cold, pulsing glow of 1,000 jewels. In the center of the ceiling, a black octagonal pattern caught his eye, 4 red gems blazing with a fire unlike the white glare of the others. Across the room was another door, plain, not carved with scales. Had death come from there and retreated unseen? Closing the door behind him, Conan advanced. His bare feet made no sound on the crystalline floor. No chairs or tables cluttered the room, only a few silken couches embroidered with gold, serpentine designs winding across their surfaces. Silver-bound mahogany chests were scattered about, some sealed with heavy golden locks, others open, spilling jewels in a careless, radiant chaos. Conan's eyes widened. He had never seen such wealth. The jewel he sought, the heart of the elephant, was somewhere in this dazzling madness. Stooped, sword advanced, he moved toward the center of the room. Then death struck again, soundless, invisible. A shadow shot across the gleaming floor. Conan leapt sideways, instincts honed from years of battle, saving him just in time. A monstrous shape flashed before him, a hairy black horror, fangs frothing, body descending from the ceiling on a thread of its web. Something splashed on his bare shoulder, burning like liquid fire. Conan sprang back, sword raised, and saw the creature clearly, a gigantic black spider, the stuff of nightmare. It was the size of a pig, 8 thick, hairy legs propelling its ogreish body at terrifying speed. 4 eyes glinted with a terrible intelligence. Its fangs dripped venom, and Conan knew from the scorching touch on his shoulder that a mere drop could bring swift death. This was the killer that had struck Taurus, dropping from its perch in the center of the ceiling. Fools! They should have suspected the upper chambers would be as deadly as the gardens below. Now Conan faced it alone, the jewel and perhaps his life hanging in the balance. Conan's mind raced as the monstrous spider lunged. He vaulted high, its massive body hurtling beneath him, then twisted and charged back.
Another sidewise leap saved him, and he struck, cap-like, slicing one of the hairy legs cleanly. The creature spun, fangs clicking in fury, but instead of pressing the attack, it scuttled across the crystal floor and up the tower wall, crouching for a moment on the ceiling. Its fiery red eyes gleamed with malevolent intelligence. Without warning, it launched itself through the air, trailing a sticky grayish strand. Conan ducked, narrowly avoiding the snaring line, and lunged toward the door. But the spider was faster. Another sticky strand shot across, pinning him in place. He dared not strike. The web would cling to his sword, leaving him defenseless against those venomous fangs. A deadly game began. Conan's wits and reflexes against the monstrous spider's cunning. It no longer charged directly, nor did it swing blindly through the air. Instead, it raced along walls and ceiling, hurling thick rope-like strands with devilish precision, aiming to ensnare him. Each loop could strangle or bind him. Once caught, even Conan's legendary strength might not free him before the creature struck. The chamber became a silent battlefield. Only Conan's sharp breathing and the rasp of his bare feet on the crystalline floor broke the stillness. The floor, walls, and ceiling were festooned with sticky strands, draping jewel-laden chests and gilded couches like grisly garlands. Each strand whipped past him with a rasping hiss, brushing against his skin but missing by fractions of an inch. He knew he could not evade forever. He had to watch the ceiling, the floor, and every corner of the chamber, lest a looping strand wrap him like a cocoon, leaving him at the mercy of the spider's fangs. The creature raced once more across the floor, tail of sticky gray web trailing behind like a living whip. Conan vaulted over a couch, spinning as the spider scaled the wall, and the sticky strand lashed out, wrapping around his ankle. He felt its gummy grip begin to bite, and realized that one misstep here would mean instant death.
Conan caught himself on his hands as he fell, jerking frantically against the sticky web that gripped him like a living vice, coiled like a python. The hairy monster raced down the wall, intent on finishing its capture. Stung by sudden fury, Conan snatched up a nearby jewel chest and hurled it with every ounce of his strength. The move was unexpected. The chest smashed into the spider's writhing black legs with a sickening crunch, sending shards of wood and glittering gems flying in every direction. Greenish slime splattered across the floor, and the creature's massive body collapsed among the jewels. Its hairy legs twitched uselessly, and its red eyes glinted faintly, still alive with that dreadful, malevolent intelligence. Conan stood, chest heaving, scanning the glittering chamber. Nothing stirred. The other horrors seemed absent. He bent to work free of the sticky gray web. It clung stubbornly to his ankle and hands, but after a tense struggle he tore himself loose. Gripping his sword, he carefully picked his way among the coiled strands to the inner door. What awaited him beyond he could not know, but his blood was up, and having survived so many perils, he was determined to see this adventure through to its grim finale. He was certain the jewel he sought was not among the casually strewn treasure around him. The inner door was free of locks, like the first. Conan stripped away the remaining loops of web, wary of every shadow. Were the soldiers below still unaware of him? Likely. They were far beneath him, and tales told of strange, eerie sounds from the upper tower, sinister noises, the screams of horror, the whispers of death. Yara was in his mind, and the thought made Conan uneasy. He pushed the golden door open and discovered a flight of silver steps spiraling downward, dimly lit by some unknown light. He descended silently, sword in hand, the metallic stair whispering under his careful tread. No sound came from below, only thin wisps of smoke drifting lazily from beneath an ivory door ahead. The strange, exotic scent drifted upward, unlike anything Conan had ever known. The stair wound downward into deeper shadow, vanishing into the dimness, and still no sound broke the silence. The barbarian's instincts told him he was alone in a tower haunted by ghosts, or worse. Cautiously he pressed against the ivory door. It swung open without a creak. Conan froze, tense as a stalking wolf.
Before him stretched a large chamber, the domed ceiling shining gold, walls of deep green jade, and a floor of ivory partly covered with thick, richly colored rugs. Smoke swirled from an incense-laden brazier set on a golden tripod, curling lazily upward. Behind it sat a marble couch, and on the couch rested a mysterious idol, silently observing the room with an aura of malevolent power. Every nerve in Conan's body bristled. He knew the final dangers were yet to come, and somewhere in this chamber the jewel called the elephant's heart awaited. Conan froze, staring in stunned disbelief. The figure before him had the body of a man, naked, green, impossibly massive, but the head was the stuff of nightmares. Too large, too alien for any human form, it bore no trace of humanity. Wide, flaring ears framed a curling proboscis, and on either side, tusks tipped with round golden spheres gleamed faintly in the starlight. The eyes were closed as if in sleep. This was the Tower of Elephants' namesake. The monstrous head matched the grotesque beasts described by the wandering Shemites. Conan's mind snapped the pieces together. This was Yara's god, and the jewel, the fabled elephant's heart, had to be concealed within the idol itself. He stepped forward cautiously, eyes locked on the motionless form. Then, with a motion so sudden it made his heart seize, the eyes snapped open. Conan froze. This was no statue. It was alive, and he was trapped. He did not charge in blind fury as most men might. His horror was too pure, too paralyzing. A civilized man might have doubted his senses, but not Conan. He understood he faced a demon of the elder world, and the realization struck his faculties into rigid attention. Only his eyes seemed alive, drinking in the alien horror. The great trunk lifted and swept the air, probing. The topaz eyes stared blindly, yet the Cimmerian discerned that the creature could not see. His frozen terror melted slightly, replaced with cautious retreat. He began to step backward towards the door. Then the creature spoke. Its voice was strange and stammering, yet steady in key and timbre. No human throat could produce such sounds. Conan's body stiffened again. "Who is here? Have you come to torture me again, Yara? Will you never be done? O Yag Kosha, is there no end to agony?" Tears rolled from the sightless eyes. Conan's gaze traveled across the ruined limbs sprawled on the marble couch. His mind pieced it together. The marks of racks, the scorching brands, limbs once strong and comely now twisted and broken. A cold dread gave way to something else, a profound pity, unbidden, aching in his chest. This creature, whatever it had been, whatever it had suffered, was a tragedy made flesh. Conan felt the weight of its torment as if he bore the guilt of a whole world. All fear, all revulsion fell away. "I am not Yara. I am only a thief. I will not harm you." "Come near that I may touch you," came the hesitant reply. Conan stepped forward, sword forgotten, every instinct of the barbarian yielding to compassion. The trunk groped over his face and shoulders, soft and tentative, like a girl's hand brushing across him. For the first time that night, Conan felt awe and sorrow entwined with the thrill of the adventure. He was no longer merely a thief in pursuit of a jewel. He was witness to suffering older than time itself.
"You are not of Yara's race of devils," the creature whispered, its strange voice trembling with memory and sorrow. "The clean, lean fierceness of the wastelands mocks you. I have known your people from long ago, by another name, in a world before this one, when jeweled spires reached skyward in a different cosmos. There is blood on your hands." Conan muttered under his breath, grimly aware of the night's toll. A spider in the chamber above and a lion in the garden. The being's trunk twitched. "You have slain a man too this night. I feel it. I know it." "Aye," Conan answered, voice low. "The prince of thieves lies dead from the bite of a vermin.
Ah, and so, the creature's voice rose in a low, chanting rhythm, echoing oddly in the jeweled chamber. A slaying in the tavern, a slaying on the road, I know, I feel, and the third shall unleash magic of which even Yara dreams not, magic of deliverance, green gods of Yag. Tears rolled from the sightless eyes, and the body convulsed in silent agony and wonder. Conan watched, a knot of bewilderment twisting in his chest. Then the trembling ceased. The trunk reached towards him, beckoning. "O man, listen," it said, softer now, almost plaintive. "I am foul, monstrous to you, am I not? Nay, answer not, I know. But you would seem strange to me could I see you. There are many worlds beyond this one, and life takes many shapes. I am neither god nor demon, but flesh and blood like yourself, though cast in another mold, with substance shaped by a distant star. I am very old, man of the wastelands," creature continued, voice low, yet carrying the weight of millennia. "Long ago I came to this planet with others from my world, the green planet Yag, which circles the outer fringes of this universe. We swept through space on wings that drove us swifter than light, for we warred with the kings of Yag, and we were defeated, exiled. But we could never return, for on this world our wings withered and fell." Here the creature's tone deepened with remembrance. "Here we dwelt apart from mortal life in the hidden jungles of the East. We fought the strange and terrible forms that walked this earth until men grew to fear us and left us in peace. We watched men grow from apes, build the shining cities of Velusia, Camellia, Camoria, and their sisters. We watched them reel before the might of Atlanteans, Picts, and Lemurians. We witnessed oceans swallow Atlantis and Lemuria, and the remnants of Pictum and Atlantean civilization build Stone Age empires only to fall in bloody ruin. Picts sank into savagery, Atlanteans into apedom again. And from these tides of survivors, new peoples drifted southward, rising from the jungles of apes, forming kingdoms called Nemedia, Koth, Aquilonia, and others. We saw your ancestors, Conan, rise from those jungles, inheriting the blood of the Atlanteans, unknowing of the worlds that preceded them." The Cimmerian stood in awe, hearing the voice of a being older than memory itself, a witness to the cycles of civilizations, to the rise and fall of empires beyond reckoning. The weight of that history pressed upon him, but he remained silent, listening, heart hammering in the cold glow of the jeweled chamber. "We saw the descendants of the Lemurians, survivors of cataclysm, rise again through savagery, sweeping westward as Hyrcanians, and we saw this cursed race of devils, survivors of civilizations older than even Atlantis, return to culture and power, founding the accursed kingdom of Zamora. All this we observed, neither aiding nor hindering the immutable law of the cosmos, and one by one we of Yag passed from this world. We are not immortal, though our lives stretch as long as lifetimes of planets and constellations. At last I alone remained, wandering among the ruined temples of jungle-lost Kitai, worshipped as a god by an ancient yellow-skinned people. Then came Yara, steeped in forbidden knowledge passed down through the ages since the fall of Atlantis. At first he sat at my feet, learning the wisdom I offered, but white magic could not satisfy his ambition. He hungered for the dark lore, to enslave kings, to sate a fiendish desire for power. I refused to teach him the black secrets I had gathered through the eons, yet his cunning surpassed my expectation. Through guile gained in the dusky tombs of dark Stygia, he tricked me into revealing a secret I had sworn to keep. Turning my own power against me, he enslaved me. Ah, gods of Yag, my cup has been bitter since that hour. He brought me from the lost jungles of Kitai, where gray apes danced to the pipes of the yellow priests, and where offerings of fruit and wine once crowned my altars. No longer was I a god to kindly jungle folk. I became the slave of a devil in human form. Tears fell silently from the sightless eyes. He trapped me in this tower which I built at his command in a single night. Through fire and rack he mastered me. By unearthly tortures, unfathomable to mortal men, he bent my will. I would have taken my own life long ago, but he kept me alive, mangled, blinded, broken, to serve his foul designs. For 300 years I have labored at his bidding, blackening my soul with cosmic sins, staining the wisdom of my long life with crimes I could not avoid. Yet not all my ancient secrets has he wrested from me. My final gift, the last of my power, shall be the sorcery of blood and jewel. I feel the end of time draw near. You, Conan, are the hand of fate. Take the gem you shall find on that altar, the voice whispered, the trunk trembling with urgency. Now the creature's voice rose in a strange, unearthly resonance, echoing oddly in the jeweled chamber. For the great magic, the mighty magic which this world has never seen and shall not see again for a million millenniums. By my lifeblood I conjure it, by blood born on the green breast of Yag, dreaming far poised in the great blue vastness of space.
"Take your sword, man," the creature whispered, its blind eyes seeming to pierce Conan's very soul, "and strike true. Cut out my heart. Squeeze it, that my blood may flow over the red stone. Then descend these silver steps to the ebony chamber where Yara sleeps, wrapped in the lotus streams of evil. Speak his name and he shall awaken. Lay the gem before him and say, Yag Kosha gives you a last gift, a final enchantment. Then leave the tower swiftly. Fear nothing. Your path shall be made clear. The life of man is not the life of Yag, nor is human death the death of Yag. Let me be free of this cage of broken, blind flesh. Then shall I rise once more as Yoga of Yag, morning-crowned, radiant, with wings to fly, feet to dance, eyes to see, and hands to break." Uncertain but resolute, Conan stepped forward. The creature, Yag Kosha, seemed to sense the hesitation in him and indicated the precise spot to strike. Gritting his teeth, Conan drove the sword deep. Blood gushed over the blade and ran down his hands. The creature shuddered convulsively, then lay still. With grim determination, Conan completed the grisly task. The heart he removed pulsed with a strange alien rhythm, unlike any living organ he had known. Holding it over the blazing crimson jewel, he pressed with both hands. A scarlet rain poured upon the gem, but instead of sliding away, it soaked in, as though the stone were a sponge, drinking the lifeblood of a cosmic being. Cradling the jewel carefully, Conan left the fantastic chamber and found the silver steps before him. He did not glance back. Instinct told him that some unimaginable transmutation was occurring within the marble body, something no mortal eye should witness. He closed the ivory door and descended without hesitation. At the base of the stairs, an ebony door loomed, carved with a grinning silver skull at its center. Conan pushed it open. Within lay a chamber of jet and black silk, dominated by a tall, lean figure reclining upon a black silken couch. Yara, the priest and sorcerer, lay before him, eyes open but glazed, lost in the hallucinatory depths of the yellow lotus, staring as if beyond the veil of human reality. "Yara," Conan's voice rang like a verdict of doom. "Awaken!" Instantly the sorcerer's eyes cleared, cold and cruel as a vulture's. His tall form lifted, towering over the barbarian like a shadow of malice. "Dog," hissed Yara, his voice a deadly whisper, venomous as a cobra. "What do you do here?" Conan laid the jewel upon the ebony table. "He who sent this gem bade me say, Yag Kosha gives you a last gift and a last enchantment." The sorcerer recoiled. The once crystal jewel now glowed with a dark pulse. Murky depths swirled and shimmered with smoky, changing colors. Hypnotized, Yara bent over it, hands gripping the gem, eyes riveted to its depths, as though it were a magnet drawing the lifeblood of a cosmic being. Conan watched, eyes wide, disbelief clawing at him. Yara had risen from the ebony couch, towering like a shadow of malice, yet now, impossibly, he seemed to shrink before the barbarian's gaze. The priest's head fell, inch by inch, until he barely reached Conan's shoulder. Conan blinked, questioning his own senses for the first time that night. And then he saw it clearly. The sorcerer was not merely shrinking, he was dwindling to a child, then an infant, then a tiny pygmy scrambling across the ebony table. His hands waved frantically, his voice a piercing squeak, as if some unseen cosmic force had seized him. The giant jewel lay before him now like a mountain, pulsing with otherworldly crimson light. Yara's tiny figure ran in frantic circles, caught in the invisible pull of the gem. Thrice he tried to flee, thrice he was drawn back, until with a final desperate scream, he hurled himself towards the jewel. Conan's heart thundered as he saw the pygmy priest climb impossibly along its smooth, curved surface, arms flailing, invoking grisly names no mortal tongue could utter. Then it happened. Yara sank into the heart of the jewel as a man plunges into the sea. Conan saw deep within the crystal-red core the green-winged figure of Yag Kosha restored, body of a man, head of an elephant, sight returned, limbs whole. And on his heels came the priest, fleeing in terror until the avenger overtook him. With a burst like a rainbow-splintered bubble, the jewel vanished in a cascade of iridescent light. The ebony table lay bare. Conan's mind raced. The crimson heart had fulfilled its purpose. Above, the marble couch where Yag Kosha's broken, tortured form had lain was empty, the ancient being freed from its cage of flesh. Shaken, the Cimmerian fled down the silver stairwell. In his daze, he did not return by the way he had entered, but tumbled into the soldier's chamber at the base. There they lay, motionless, corselets gleaming, swords fallen from their hands, dice scattered on wine-stained lapis floors. Death had struck silently, as promised. The magic of Yag Kosha's last gift had cleared his path. A silver door stood open, framed by the early light of dawn. Into the gardens he emerged, breathing the cool, fragrant morning air. The lush green plants swayed in the wind as if to celebrate his escape. Conan paused, staring back at the tower of the elephant. Had he dreamed all this? The jewel-crusted rim, once dazzling under the stars, now swayed in the crimson dawn and shattered into gleaming shards. A single terrible truth struck him. Some dreams are more real than waking life, and some powers belong not to men, but to the cosmic forces that shape the world beyond mortal understanding.
And thus the story ended. If you liked this journey into the worlds of classic literature, do not forget to support us by subscribing so we can tell you more. And hey, if there's a classic tale you'd love to hear told in this suspenseful style, drop its name in the comments below. Your suggestion might be our next chilling adventure.